Muhami Matters with Chris Adams, powered by CJA Consulting.
You can never, ever in business ask anybody to do anything that they don't want to do. It's just not going to happen.
Since he's so critical to building trust.
Sometimes that can be, for example, I need to create a quirky, funny video because it's human. Sometimes it needs to be full of emotion. It's human.
Hello, welcome to Muhami Matters, where credibility meets clarity in legal and professional services. I'm your host, Chris Adams, founder of Muhami and CJA Consulting. Each episode, we connect you with trusted experts, respected industry leaders, and provide practical insights designed to empower your professional and business journey. Today, I'm joined by Gareth Williams, the founder of the Createologists. What a name. A brilliant, strategic, creative studio that helps brands turn confusion into clarity and ideas into real emotional connections. He told me to say that. In today's conversation, we're going beyond just marketing tips. We're exploring how content can become a fundamental tool for trust, how storytelling can transform your brand, why engagement is more important than ever, and why putting you, the audience, at the heart of your content strategy is absolutely essential. If you're a lawyer growing your practice, a consultant building your brand, or a business leader navigating today's noisy market, this is for you. So let's dive in. Hi, Gareth. Thanks for joining me today.
Fantastic.
Appreciated.
Great to be here.
For those who don't know much about you, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yep, my name is Gareth Williams, the Createologist. I have flown in from Wales over in the UK. Can't wait. It'd be fantastic to be on this fantastic ship live in the QE2. This is a brilliant experience, so it's great to be here. Yeah, and we run, as you say, a digital creative agency called the Createologists, which really helps people to be remembered and not just seen. That's the core piece of content that we like to share about people. It's creating content for businesses in both video mainly and telling those stories that really get brands seen around the world.
I know you're founded the Createologists and your mission is to help brands stand out. Tell me more about it. How did it come about?
The last 5 or 6 years, Chris, I've been writing corporate poetry for various different people at the BBC, working with brands in the UK like the NHS, really, really diverse work, really. And writing poetry which really engages either employees, people, commuters. I've got a poem that's on the side of a train station over in the UK, which is, really interesting. So it gets seen by thousands and thousands of people and it really engages them. And it was doing that work and filming a lot of my own work many, many years back, but I really started to move beyond just poetry and understanding how that content and the creation process could help businesses. Because I understand that poetry is not for everyone, no matter how much you put a nice ring to it, lyrical marketing, or one man's poetry is another man's lyrical marketing, I like to say. But I understood that the stories we were trying to tell, the content we were trying to create, the engagement levels we were trying to do, how shareable it was, is all of what businesses need. And we using those skills and the writing and narration and the scripts really helps us to help businesses do something very similar, create content that converts.
Now, you're also known for your distinctive orange color. It's in your branding, it's on your clothing, as we can see. It's on your luggage. I saw your suitcase the other day. Tell us the story behind why you chose orange and is there a meaning to it?
Totally. If you're going to do one thing with your marketing, you need to stand out. We had a fantastic photograph, didn't we, when we were at this event? And the one thing that when I sent it to my lovely wife was I was the only person you could actually see on the left-hand side with that orange distinctive colour. So if you're going to do anything in business, you want to stand out. When creating our own brands, there's 2 reasons why. One is the standout version, and the second is because it's a very socially communicative colour. When you go away, and I urge your audience to do this, look at their brand colours and to go and put in Google or any other search term you'd like in any other area you might use to search these things, even AI, of course, and go and put in what does the colour, like we're looking at today, mean of our brand. And really try and let that lean into what you're doing. So with orange being a social colour, a really big colour in nature, of course, the sun, yellow, orange, it shines. It's just something that's going to get seen. And I want to help clients to be seen. So I thought, well, why not choose a colour that's going to do just that?
So on that note, you introduced us on Friday when I was at an event with you to, I think the phrase was attract, not repel. Attract is the key word, right?
Yeah. Don't chase. Yes. Attract. And we were at this fantastic event and I was speaking to yourself and the rest of the audience about how you can use content and creativity and confidence to do just that. And I think that many of your audience will see that they have to constantly think about how they will chase clients, particularly when it comes to content. How can we create marketing which is going to work or create an ROI? And I like to simply say, well, just create content that's going to attract that conversion, because that's all you can do. You can never, ever in business, as you know, ask anybody to do anything that they don't want to do. It's just not going to happen. Whether it become legal advice or anything that they're trying to do, you've got to attract them. You've got to want them, make them to come to you. And that is around how we help businesses to do just that, through the storytelling, through the engagement, through that chemistry framework that I shared with you.
I don't know if I can pull off orange. I think I can on the weekend, but I'm not sure about in business meetings. So I'll have to have a bit of a think about what color to use. Now, you've developed a brilliant framework, the 5 fundamentals of marketing. Tell us what those are.
Whenever you're creating anything in marketing, you'll know this, Chris. It's about making it shareable. First, number one, make it shareable. And there's loads of things around that which we might get into. How do you make content that's shareable, and why you want things to be shareable? It's consistent. Everyone knows that. If they know anything about marketing, everyone talks about consistency, but it really is in there. How do you create that consistent marketing? It needs to be story driven. How can you create that narrative that's going to be really relevant to the people you're looking for, engaging? And how can you make it based around what you do, and how it's going to be engaging around your authenticity and your personality?
What about for serious? We have a lot of lawyers, a lot of professionals listening to this podcast and watching us. What do you do in a serious industry?
Dead easy. 4 things. If you've got a pen, if you're watching this, stop the video because you need to see it. It's 4 things. All begin with H. It needs to be helpful. How can I create content that's going to actually be helpful to the audience? You need to know that. How can I do it? It's going to be human. So many times people create content and they think professional, but sometimes that's misinterpreted as being boring. So how can I create something that is human, that's authentic? Sometimes that can be, for example, I need to create a quirky, funny video because it's human. Sometimes it needs to be full of emotion, but it's human. How can we do that? Yeah. It could be humorous, as I say, which is the 4th one, or it could be heartfelt. Those 3 or 4 things. So helpful, human, humorous, and heartfelt could be 4 different ways that you could create that, something that's going to be shareable. And you see that on TikTok or on any other channels. Whenever you're sharing something, usually for me, it's because it's funny. You're going to share something because it's funny. Someone's fell over, or so you didn't expect something to happen. And it's kind of getting that element of how you can create that content that's going to be shareable.
I love it. And I've just written it down as well. So I'm going to bear that in mind for all the content that I do. It's consistency. That's another one that's easy to say and a bit hard to do. Why is consistency so critical to building trust?
Because consistency builds trust over time. If you do something once, you're never going to get remembered for it. It could be, and there's loads of analogies. If you try to learn the guitar once, it ain't going to be any good. So let's take that as an example. Musical instruments, it could be the piano, could be the flute, no matter what it is. Yes. You do it once, you're never going to be. It's that consistent practicing of doing something right that's going to get you the results. And that's something that you really want to bear in mind, whether you're a guitarist or a musician or not. Anyone you listen to has done that for years and years, and that's why they're so successful. So that's why it's really, really key. And you need to show up. We talked today in part of the training we were taking, weren't we? That you need to be, showing up, because that is predictable. If you're there and people can rely on that consistency, then they come to rely on it anyway. They know, I should be expecting something. When's the next podcast from Chris going to, appear? Yeah. Once you've done this consistently, because they know the quality of guests you're getting. They know the type and the format. They know exactly what they're going to get. And I think, they're the 2 bits I'd like to really remember. That trust is built over time, and it's around getting that consistency level up.
I think time is a critical factor as well, isn't it? Because we're all very busy. We're all business owners or entrepreneurs or quite senior people in organizations, and time is of the essence. So how do you recommend getting that consistency? Is it focusing on specific things?
It's focusing and it's planning. Those 2 things. It's like take this very podcast, or take that musical analogy that we've used. If you're going to get piano lessons, usually they're once a week, and then you get to a certain grade, and then you do maybe twice a week because you want to get to grade 2. It's the same with karate. It's the same with anything you do. If you're going to go to a sports club and learn the sport, you're going to go training every week for a game that's at the weekend, and gradually you start getting better. And that's the same with content. It needs to be something that is going to be authentic and helpful, as I've already mentioned, but something that you want to do consistently. We go back to that musical analogy. If you don't want to play the guitar, doesn't matter how much your parents are pushing you to do it, you ain't going to do it. If you don't like the game rugby, you're not going to be all that good at it. You need to want to do it. And if you're in business and you want to grow your business, then that just naturally comes. You're going to have to create content. You may as well make that content that is aligned with you. More importantly, just as importantly, aligned with your audience, and make it, as I say, helpful, humorous, and something that's going to get some traction and be shareable.
So you, even throughout this podcast today, you've been very good at storytelling. And that's another thing I know you talk about a lot, is the importance of storytelling in order to get shareable content, in order to get through to people and to your audience. Yeah, tell us a bit more about that. What should we do?
Yeah, well, we're all used to stories, aren't we? All watch when we're not at work, we're watching movies, we're listening to music, which is so often built on a story in itself. The simple thing is that facts tell and stories sell. That's the idea, isn't it? You can give people facts about why they should be taking legal advice. But, for example, for some of the audience members who may be listening, but it's understanding, well, what's the problem with not getting the law and the actual help you need when it comes to the services you need. And that's really understanding what sometimes it's about. People obviously buy because they're scared of something or because they want something. We've all heard that before. So how could you build your marketing around, let's take this as a lawyer's practice, for example, who specializes in divorce. If getting the wrong advice at the time you need it, you want to be telling the story about what financial penalties that's going to have you, what emotions you're going to be feeling, how that's going to affect you on financially, obviously, and understanding how that's going to work. And it's trying to tell that in a way, as I said before, that is in that scenario going to be emotional, really going to speak to the people who need that kind of advice. And that's why stories, that's why film manufacturers and studios around the world spend millions of pounds, of course, trying to tell us stories. They're called movies, they're called films, that we're going to go and pay and watch. Some of them are biopics and the life stories of people which have been embellished. Some of them are fantastic Netflix series. We know these. We like hearing these stories, and so often businesses don't understand this fundamental piece. People turn off work and go home and watch stories all day long. They're listening to radio documentaries. They're listening to stories or watching Netflix and films, as I've said. But they don't use those key ingredients to do that in their own business. And that's really where, that emotion first and logic second needs to come in. How can I get some emotion into what I'm trying to sell or tell in my marketing rather than just logic? If you're in that situation where you need, let's say, divorce advice, logically you're going to need it because the relationship's broken down. But just telling that logical story isn't always going to be the way that's going to get, for example, that business with that niche to that market, the right type of business, the numbers of business they need to ultimately grow.
So you reference movies. In storytelling, are we talking fiction or non-fiction? Do we have to have all true stories, or are we sort of sometimes, making up analogies, for example?
Well, that's a really good it's a really good question. I talked before, didn't I, at the talk on Friday about the importance of a good case study. The difference between reviews and testimonials and case study. A case study allows you to tell the story that you want to tell about somebody who you've worked with. And you can often do that, of course, in disguise. You don't need to say, I worked with this person that was divorcing this person. Let's keep that analogy going. But you can say that you worked with Brian and you helped him in this way, that way, and this way, with the emotions, with the financials, with the information you needed to share with him. And that was the problem, and then sharing that solution. And you can do that with case studies really, really well. And that, again, is something that's so often misused, because that case study is far more useful to somebody who's about to go through the same process and needs that help. Yes. Because you're telling about this fictional person, this Brian, and you often see, don't you, in many documentaries that some of the names have had to be changed for legal reasons. That you guys are used to seeing that. Yep. But that doesn't take anything away from the story, does it? Just because and that's a really good point that leads to your second point that, we've all heard made up stories, and some of those are the best ones going. You could easily write a parable of, if you like, of great idea. We should work on that. Yeah, a parable of not taking the right legal advice throughout your life. Quite genuinely, how would that look if you didn't write the right story for your life when it came to legal advice? When running a business, you wouldn't have the right contracts in place, which would lead to this. In a relationship, as we've said, not having the right advice if you needed it when you needed it. When a relationship broke down, this is the kind of thing you can have, and so on. And across all of those different areas of law that you might work to. And obviously, the story our communities are telling us all the time, don't break the law. Don't go this fast. Don't go that slow. Don't go killing anybody. They're biblical stories that we just know they're what we understand as ethics sometimes, aren't they? We're not going to do those things. And obviously some people fall on the wrong side of that, which is
not us. We're always,
Of course, we're always above the law. But that show you there how story is so important in that element.
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to work together, I think, on helping people to tell their story, their brand story, their business stories, and get those clicks. On that note, it's easy to get caught up chasing likes or impressions, especially on social media, when you're telling these stories and, I guess, manufacturing them. But I guess real marketing success stays about engagement more than anything else.
It's more than that.
Say engagement looks like.
Yeah, engagement over visibility. Certainly, it is. You don't want just those likes. It's about getting that engagement, isn't it? You need to be visible in order to be seen. Obviously, yeah, that is so important. You've got elements of There's that old adage, isn't there, that people buy from people. Well, people only buy from people they can see. Yeah. And you need to create content consistently to be seen. And then once you've got that visibility, that can then turn into that lovely P word, that profitability. Once you've got that, you can get the two. And you can't get profitability without being seen. Simple as that.
Yeah.
It's a great question, but quite a short answer.
Yeah.
You need to be seen to sell. Yeah, it's simple.
I think one big mistake I've seen from a lot of firms and companies is making the content all about them.
Yes.
And I think you need to make it about you, as in you, the audience.
Yeah, well, it goes back to that story a little bit. Make the client the hero. It's really important. You know, we talk about a spotlight on a stage sometimes, and people quite understandably don't want to be in the spotlight because they don't like public speaking, for example. It's not that the spotlight is on you. You should be putting the spotlight on your clients and how you help them. So there's always a spotlight involved in a business, but it doesn't always need to be on you.
No.
So that's the first point. And the second point really relates to this idea is that what's in it for me?
Yes.
You need to be asking that to your questions. What's in it for them to come to your practice, for example, to get the right advice at the right time, or whatever business it is, whether you're selling tissues on looking around this set we've got or selling TVs. What's in it for me? Could it be a good deal? Is it the fact that you've really understood the market well and you've got a really good niche and you know the audience? They're all really important, but those 2 points really are true. And if you can make that client the hero, then you're going to get better case studies, you're going to get better stories, you're going to get a better chance of getting a testimonial, which then keeps coming back to you. And
locals, doesn't it? Yeah.
Totally.
And it's something that I myself have had to learn a little bit is the whiffing, I guess. You know, it's so easy to talk about what services you provide, how you do things, and then think, actually, why does this person really care?
Yeah.
They've like sitting there after a minute going, what's in it for me? Why do I care?
Exactly.
So that's really good advice and something for us all to bear in mind. I guess there's a lot to remember. If people listening today feel a bit overwhelmed, then where should they start? What's a good place to start?
Well, one thing is that start with one pain point. Yeah. When you're looking at your business, you need to always be selling on the pain points and understanding exactly where your clients are at that moment. So selling to that, telling the stories of that pain point, where that could actually be. The second piece would be just to offer one piece of content initially that points to that. So understand the pain point and just create something. Do one piece of content which is going to point towards that. And then just remember that word consistency or momentum beats perfection. Get your pens, guys. Momentum
beats perfection. Okay.
Yeah. Momentum beats perfection. Yes, it does. So many people are so worried about how they're going to look on camera. Is this shirt, for example, got a crimple in the right place covering the logo? Does my hair look okay today? Look, I have a bit more, not so much of a problem with that today. Eh? You know, is my beard as sharp as it should be?
Yeah.
Whatever it could be, perfectionism. So, but that momentum beats that perfection every single time.
I love some of the keywords or the key phrases that you come up with. It helps us to remember. There's a lot of good advice that we've heard today. If people want to find more information about the Createologists, where can we go?
Yep. So you go to www.thecreateologists.co.uk. I'm sure you'll put a link below, will you, somewhere? Or put it on the screen, maybe, thecreateologists.co.uk. I'm on LinkedIn, of course, Gareth Williams. And I just really like to work, high level and kind of high energy content for grown-ups. I've gone past the age of trying to be an influencer. I just want to work with businesses that understand that it's not too late for them to be creative, to create content that converts and to be able to grow their business with ease.
Yeah, well, certainly you're a great partner for me to work with. And I've enjoyed our time today and our time in general getting to know you more. So thank you very much, Gareth, for joining us. And I'm definitely going to take some of your advice away.
Thank you.
So to all of you, thank you very much for joining us today on the episode of Muhami Matters, brought to you by CJA Consulting, of course. I hope today's conversation with Gareth Williams from the Createologists has been very useful. It sparked some fresh ideas for you and hopefully inspired your content strategy as well. So I'm Chris Adams. Until next time, stay informed, stay empowered, and remember that the right story, shared the right way, can change everything. Thank you for joining us on Muhami Matters. If you found today's episode valuable, subscribe and connect with me to stay updated. Join me again soon as we continue to bring you credible insights, practical strategies, and trusted advice to empower your professional journey. I'm Chris Adams. Until next time, stay informed and stay empowered.